This is Soccer 101 with Moon and Rocchio.
So let's talk about the Chicago Fire FC domination, if you will. 3-1 victory, making it 5 consecutive matches of an unbeaten streak for St. Louis City SC. Rasmus Alm wasted no time putting City SC ahead, scoring 1 minute and 24 seconds into the match. That's the fastest goal in City SC history. Chicago equalized, but then Klauss responded with a second-half brace to vault City SC in front and earn the team's second straight win at CITYPARK. How are we feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good about it, Moon, and here's a little inside baseball, by the way. I am now in my 4th different studio for Soccer 101, Moon, and hopefully this is the 4th and final one on my end of the podcast, as we are locked now into the podcast studio here at Hubbard. So hopefully this is the new home for Soccer 101 on my end, and hopefully it sounds and looks a little bit better for you guys on your end as our listeners. We obviously love you guys and love you guys for listening, and so we've changed things up a little bit. If you keep wondering why everything keeps changing on my end, we're just a little bit fluid, but here we are. It's hopefully static from here on out, much like the St. Louis City offense. We're going to do the same thing we've been doing now for the last week, which is, in their case, is scoring goals. In our case, it's podcasting from a new room.
Yeah, basically, Rocchio, you look like you're in your 4th home. Like
Yes.
You just own all these different homes.
I know, I just keep
podcasting.
This is what people really don't know about Radio, Moon. It's such a lucrative business. So let's get into this big game, obviously. The thing I want to talk about, obviously, you have the record-setting goal from Rasmus Alm, the quickest goal in St. Louis City SC history. But the big thing I got to talk about with you, Moon, is the last time we talked about was before the Houston Dynamo game. That was a 0-0 tie, the second of the season for St. Louis City. And you had texted me during the game, really just, perturbed about the finishing from the front line, especially from Joao Klauss. Obviously, he gets 2 goals, a brace in that game on Saturday, I should say, a 3-1 victory. He gets 2 of the 3 goals. I got to hear what you thought about his finishing in that game.
He must have read the text, because here's my text, 9:07 a.m. on Sunday, May 5th to you, and it's, what the heck with Klauss last night? Finish! All caps with, 6 exclamation points?
Yeah.
Finish, for goodness
like I said,
sake.
Perturbed was a good word for it.
Oh, my gosh. Coach G in high school, our coach, it's pretty much the only thing he ever screamed at us. He was not a screamer, per se, but when we were just lacking finishing skill, I mean, that's what we're doing day in, day out, is learning how to finish. And anytime you miss it, especially consecutively for a couple weeks, he just had difficulties finishing. I'm sure he heard that from 1,000 people in the post game, just like, finish, come on, brother, you're showing us the skill, you're just not showing us the finish. But finally, we saw some finishes. So I was, I'm going to say I'm more relieved, because this is such a head game sport, especially for these strikers. So when they lack finishing, when they have a match like they did in Houston, or against Houston, it takes its toll, and you almost worry that it's going to set them back and knock the confidence out of Klauss for further weeks. But dude, getting 2 like that against Chicago, that is a confidence booster. I don't care how they come. When you finish, it just feels freaking good, and obviously, all the marks on the stat sheet just make you feel good when you come away with a 3-1 win.
Yeah, and it was just such a perfect win in so many different ways for him. I think one of the most fascinating things from that win, when you broke it down and you looked at that game, is that their average place for a defensive action, and I'll throw up the graph here that at MLS Stats on X puts out after the games. They're really great if you like to dive into this stuff, and you can see on this stat that their average defensive action was 25 yards further up the field than their opponent in this game, which just shows you, I mean, when the press is working, and part of that's obviously going to be pushed to the fact that when you get an early goal, you completely change how the other team has to play their game. And so getting an early goal is obviously going to make the press when you're a team like St. Louis City a little bit easier. But, man, to see that kind of stark difference, we've really only seen it in one other game for City. That just shows when this team presses and really gets going, they can bury teams. And it's funny because Bradley Carnell actually said his only real criticism from the game is that they didn't really bury the team. It took them too long to really finish them off. But really, if you dive into some of the stats, that was never really a close game, and it really just was the punctuation in the goals and obviously the mistake on City's part, that one goal, that really just made it seem like it was a lot closer than it was.
Yeah, I know I like to talk a lot about stats and compare it and, the possessions and all that kind of stuff, but that's what seemed to be going for the team so well last year in all those dominated, phases where we were just getting win after win. It was not necessarily early goals, but just this intensity, this pressing success, and the success of that then led to the domination and the burying of these other teams, whether it was in goals, that the teams really couldn't mount any comebacks, or just the intensity. The intensity always followed the goals. You know what I mean? And typically intensity is what comes before the goals. But St. Louis, when we get out ahead, when we get going and the press works, it's almost like we're so excited that it's working, we just double down and make it work even more. And there's this crazy burying nature of the intensity of that team, or at least last season. That's what I felt like we were seeing last season. You remember that Cincinnati FC game? I don't remember what it was, 5-0, 5-1, something. It just was like this, you get out ahead and then you bury teams with intensity, and maybe they're getting back to that. One of your favorites, Pompeu, he and Klauss have been, as they say in the
Portuguese
paper here,
connection.
Yes, this incredibly awesome Brazilian connection, this potent duo in the last three matches. City SC's come from behind road draw against Sporting KC. Klauss set up Pompeu for the midfielder strike from a distance. And then against Chicago FC, this time around it was Pompeu who found Klauss in the box to punch home that game-winning goal. So it's great to see the chemistry. It's great to see those green lines if you play FIFA, when you're getting the chemistry between two players that are connected on the field, and they're really just starting to hit on all cylinders. It was great and very cool for Alm to get his not only his first goal of the season, but to get a little record there.
Yeah, it was really cool. And some things that jumped out to me after the game, I was going through the Opta Analyst, which is this great statistical account that breaks down all these soccer numbers, and they break down a bunch of numbers for the MLS as well. Excuse me, and I just wanted to update some people on where kind of St. Louis City sits and why they are so good. So just a couple quick things. They are third in the league in open play shots, fourth in the league in set play shots, and on the complete reverse, they're third in the league and fourth in the league in set play and open play shots again on defense. So they they get a lot of shots and they don't allow a lot of shots. Their XG isn't as good. It's kind of middle of the pack in a lot of those stats, but nonetheless, they're creating a lot of shots and they're doing that without Edward Leuven. That jumps out to me as a really impressive thing. Also, they broke down this great graph, and I'll throw it up on the podcast here as well, that broke down kind of who are the quickest teams. And we know City plays quick. This isn't a revelation to anyone who's watching this podcast, but it is interesting in that City is far and away the fastest and quickest playing team. It's honestly insane. They have the quickest sequence time. They have the lowest passes per sequence in all of the MLS, and they progress the ball the fastest and that's just being rated in meters per second, as in you're moving the ball, how quickly you move it from your goal to the opposition's goal. They have the lowest amount of 10-plus pass sequences, the lowest amount of build-up attacks. So just everything's telling you this is a team that's quick. There's not a lot of passes that happen. And one of the reasons is because they get so many turnovers in the opposition's half. They're first in high turnovers, second in high turnovers forced in the entire league. Chicago Fire, by the way, was number one after that game. They're first in high turnover shot-ending sequences. So when you turn the ball over in the opposition's half, how often do you get a shot from that sequence? And they're tied for first in high turnover goal-ending sequences. How often do you get that high turnover? Do you turn it into a goal? So everything you see here tells you, and by the way, they're tied for fourth with the lowest progressive passes per defensive action. That is kind of the overall stat that is used in the MLS to tell you what are the best pressing teams. The lower your number, the better pressing team you are. City is tied for fourth in the entire league. So every number you look at when you try to figure out how fast does City play, do they press well, every single number tells you that they are a better pressing team, a higher pressing team, and just a better overall team in a lot of ways than they were last year. And that is also what is being said down at CITYPARK. Bradley Carnell and multiple players have said we are a more improved team from 2023 to 2024. They're barely behind their pace and points for last year, and they really truly believe that they are an improved team. and we're starting to actually see it, which is interesting because we were hearing those rumblings, Moon, after the first month or so, but it didn't look like it out on the field. Now it's actually starting to look like a team that is making improvements.
Yeah, I think the biggest difference, man, is the finishing. If you just finish, just even, let's say, 10, 15, 20% of the ones that could have, should have gone in, would have, could have, should have gone in, we're not ninth place. We're in the top 5, top 4. You know what I mean? It's that small of a difference. Of course, it's early in the season, and that lack of finishing obviously has cost us points. And right now, again, I just mentioned we're ninth place in the West. Not great, but here's some positivity to sort of pile on top of Roccio's positivity there. Again, I mentioned unbeaten streak for 5 straight matches. They're 2-0-3. Remained undefeated at CITYPARK this year, moving 3-0-3 at home in MLS play and 4-0-3 at home across all competitions. These are good stats. St. Louis is just one of 3 teams this season that has not lost a match at home. New York Red Bulls and LAFC are the other ones. So LAFC coming here to CITYPARK for this Wednesday match. It's a CITYPARK match, right?
We're home tonight. Get on out there.
Okay, great. Just a couple hours here. And across City SC's 14 all-time MLS wins at home, the team has scored 3 or more goals in 10 of those contests. So, things are looking up. We're on fire from this last weekend. Pardon the pun there, but I think ready to match up against an LAFC squad that's going to throw a lot at us. Right now, LAFC is 5th, so they're just maybe a point, I think, outside of the top 4. Actually, they're tied with Vancouver, but Vancouver has them on goal difference, I suppose. So yeah, this is a top 4 club that's going to throw a lot at us tonight at CITYPARK, in this MLS match. How do you think tonight's going to go?
It's going to be interesting. Like I said, a lot of big names. And before we dive into the match, though, I kind of want to focus on some big names really quickly because.
Oh yeah, talk to me.
LAFC. One of the biggest moves in this offseason, they brought in World Cup winning goaltender Hugo Lloris, and
one of my favorites.
Their goals against average has actually gone up this year. And primarily, I'm not going to blame that on Hugo Lloris. He's a very talented goaltender, but he does have one of his highest goals allowed per 90 of his entire career right now, and part of that's because of a very inconsistent backline from LAFC. By the way, LAFC, if you saw yesterday, they're getting some reinforcements on the front line because they are adding also fellow French national to Hugo Lloris, and that is Olivier Giroud, the striker, is going to be joining LAFC.
Gotta be kidding.
He will not be joining until the summer, though, so no worry about Giroud. But you're the bigger EPL fan than I, Moon, so I need to get your thoughts on a former Arsenal and Chelsea striker in Olivier Giroud.
Giroud is one of my favorites. He's one of my absolute favorites. There was a particular World Cup there where people were telling me that I look like that guy, and I took a compliment. That guy's he's beautiful, and I was like, oh, I do. Thank you. Thank you very much. Also, Lloris, I am French, and I've been compared to those two in my lighter days. But I love Giroud, and I love this move for him, and this is why. First of all, he's one of those strikers that he's got some highlights of some beautiful, beautiful goals. But he's also kind of a grinder. He's a slightly taller than most kind of guy. I forget what his height is, but he's good on the headers. He's good on his foot. He's good on sneaking around, mostly because he's lost a lot of speed. Not that he was ever the fastest guy. And the best move for this guy to end his career is to come to a place that has one of the weaker defenses. This is a growing league showing growing skill, but man, the defenses are lacking in MLS. And with LAFC losing Chiellini, these last couple years, Lloris, of course, is going to have a completely, one of his stats that he doesn't want to blow up is going to blow up a little bit.
Giroud is 6'4", by the way. Jesus.
Giroud is 6'4"?
Yeah, he's 6'4".
Yeah, he's on the taller end of things. He finds his way in the air to just beat some of, even like defenders that are a little bit taller. Giroud just has a magic way of putting in every type of ball. He's one of the guys that I think I used to watch when he played at Arsenal, and I just thought he was fun to watch. He had this youthful kind of spark to him, but he also had kind of an older way of playing the game that you could tell from an early age. He just has a high soccer IQ. He's a smarter player up there.
Well, we don't have to worry about him, luckily, for tonight.
Thank goodness.
And maybe, but now I think the question becomes, what kind of summer reinforcements could City be looking at? And well, Moon, since we last talked, the rumor mill has taken over. The last time we talked, Moon, we were making waves about Hanover striker Cedric Tuchert. And, well, the conversation has changed. We haven't left Germany, though, for the conversation, as Roman Bürki himself has been involved in a recruitment video for longtime Bundesliga legend, longtime Borussia Dortmund legend, Marco Reus. Roman Bürki on Instagram the other day sending him a very blatant recruitment video, telling him, among other things, let me show you around our new facility. Look at these training facilities. The number 11's waiting for you. The captain's armband is waiting for you, and I can't wait to see you out on that field walking out in a number 11. Roman Bürki, some very passionate recruitment. Marco Reus, a big name again in the Bundesliga. Your thoughts on that rumor mill being started up this week? Would you want to see Marco Reus in a City jersey?
100%. I have spent so very little money on Bundesliga jerseys, and the only one that I've ever bought with a name on it is his jersey.
There you
I
go.
have bought Reus. I've bought Reus jerseys, dude, because I freaking love this guy. I love this guy's style of play, and I think he would destroy the MLS. I still think he has years, just like Giroud, that would be amazing for a league like this. And if we could get this guy, he is our captain.
He is about 2 years younger than Giroud. Giroud 37, which kind of surprised me when I saw it. Marco Reus, 35 now, so I guess he'd probably be joining, obviously closer to 36 or so. So he's about a year and a half younger than Olivier Giroud. So I'm a little worried about the age. He had a lot of injury woes in his late 20s, early 30s, but he has played pretty consistently around 25, 28 matches the last 3 or 4 seasons for Dortmund. And so I think maybe some of his injury issues are maybe in the past. He's a little bit older. He's not going to be as fleet of foot, but he's crafty. We've talked about needing some craftiness, needing some talent, needing some that extra, whatever it is out there on the wing that City's been missing. We've been talking about that too. And also I got to point out, while maybe Reus himself isn't known as being the most defensively minded winger or anything like that, you don't play at Dortmund in the years that he did without knowing how to run a little bit of a gegenpress. So even that kind of stylistically, he might not be the perfect fit, but I think in a lot of ways he really does fit what City's trying to do.
A 35-year-old World Cup, and world-class player, a guy like that coming into the squad, even if he doesn't give us, anywhere near his best years or something like that, do you realize what that would bring to our club as far as maturity?
Yeah.
And like in the clubhouse and talking to younger players and some of our City 2 players that are coming over, having that kind of guy, that kind of experience that's done that kind of work and won what he's won over in Germany, it would be worth every penny. I don't care if he plays 2 matches and sits the rest of the time. It's still worth bringing a guy like that over into our club, like these other clubs are bringing. The Girouds, the Chiellinis, the Messis, the Suarezes. Like, we're not just bringing the skill and the show. We're bringing a lot more with a player like that can talk in the clubhouse and really help players and help our club develop a really world-class identity. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I would lose my mind. I'd buy 3 different kits immediately with that guy's name on it if he came over.
That's what we hope for. Maybe we'll get more information on it as the summer transfer window starts to loom a little bit closer. But let's get back to the present, Moon, because we got a ball game tonight at CITYPARK. LAFC taking on St. Louis City FC, St. Louis City SC. 7:30 is your start for the game. I think this is going to be a fascinating matchup, Moon. LAFC, also a lot like City, got a slow start. We were just talking about how the defense in front of Hugo Lloris has struggled this year. They've let up a lot more goals than they've expected to, but they've also been scoring a lot of goals. Out of their 21 goals, 18 of them have been scored by just 4 players. Denny Bouanga is obviously the one leading that attack. So I think this is going to be a very interesting matchup against 2 teams that over the last month have kind of changed their fortunes.
Yeah, and they just beat Vancouver 3-0 after having a loss to the Earthquakes, which is one of their big rivals. So they've been up and down, up and down. They've accrued 18 points and scored 22 goals. They've conceded 19. Again, they sit in 5th place. They're not on like a streak like we are necessarily. But they're a good team. This is no joke. Like you talked about, Bouanga is like no freaking joke, and it has to be taken seriously, especially with our back line that's been a little bit, shall we say, shaky.
Well, here's the thing. That's actually one of the things I think is going to be the most fascinating thing for fans out there tonight to watch. Bouanga is usually deployed on the left side of the LAFC three-man attack. So that matches up to the right side of your St. Louis City defense. Who's usually on the right side of the St. Louis City defense? Ladies and gentlemen, Thomas Totland. So that matchup, I think, is going to be fascinating. Totland didn't give a lot up in his pre-match presser yesterday, or Monday, I should say. They hadn't, I guess, gone really deep into the film yet. His one thing is that maybe Bouanga's work level isn't that great on tracking back because he's so offensively minded. Here's the thing, though. Because he's so offensively minded, I don't know how much Totland's going to be able to take advantage of that. But maybe this is a game where a right winger, right midi like Indy Vasilev or Rasmus Alm can really have their impact. With that said, I also want to point out LAFC is one of the few teams that actually concedes a majority of possession on their left flank. So that kind of tells you, like Totland was saying, they don't get a lot of defensive pressure from Bouanga on that side. So it's all down to a midfielder spreading out to the left side, or their left back coming all the way over and only covering that much ground. So that right there, that's a way for them to take advantage of this LAFC defense. The way it's done and the way that the City attack will probably happen is they start on the left and then they flip it to the right side, because that left side overload has been so crucial for them really since Anthony Marcanic got here about a year ago. And without Leuven and without AZ, it's kind of changed this year. It's now Ostrak, Marcanic, and Pompeu, but still that left side overload has been so important for City. So if they can get that going, flip it to the right side, and then take advantage of the fact that there really is only one guy isolated on the opposite side of the LAFC defense, I think that could be the key of attacking this team and getting some goals, because you're going to need it, because, again, there are a lot of great attackers for LAFC, and as Moon just kind of said, sometimes the City defense gives up pretty juicy opportunities.
Yes, the juicy opportunities. I remember you were talking about some stats before, and a lot of the turnovers in our offensive half.
They create them.
I've been criticizing all the difficulties with the defense will win a ball and then try to connect some stupid long just dumb idea pass to a midfielder that's 20, 25 yards up and give the ball away, which is creating so many goal opportunities and a few goals against St. Louis that have cost us points in the end. So I think if we can just get rid of that, just get rid of the defense giving away the balls that they're trying to connect to these midfielders that are too far away, these poor passes, clean that up, and I think we take a lot of LA's weaponry out of the
Here's
picture.
the thing, though, Moon. One of the stats I threw out there is City is last in the entire league in 10+ pass sequences. So this isn't a team that really ping-pongs a bunch of passes together to move the ball forward. They move the ball forward quickly, but it's not really in a passing tiki-taka kind of way. Those longer passes, I know you don't like them, but there's a point where you just kind of might have to just settle with the fact that that's how they get the ball up the field.
Okay, well, and if you're happy with 9th place, that's fine.
They're playing better, remember?
Yeah,
I agree with you, though.
I can visualize 3 different instances this year
I'm with you.
where a defender took the ball. We took possession of the ball, and a pass went right to a freaking attacker. Goal scoring opportunity. We lost, not a win. I mean, they scored, not a win. So, I'm just telling you, dude, these defenders cannot be doing these Dumbo passes right to opposing attackers. I'm not talking about to opposing defenders. I'm not talking about dump and run balls. Not all those, quick release sort of. I'm not expecting miracles here, but I am expecting that those defensive passes, they need to be sharper or smarter. That's all I'm saying.
Let's look at a positive story from abroad, going to Europe for a little positivity, and that is our boy Niko Gioacchini is hopefully, at least his team that he's on now, is going to be playing in the Serie A next year. Hopefully Niko will be as well, because Como 1907 was able to achieve promotion to the Serie A. And really what I found out this weekend is just how cool of an overall story this really has been, Moon. They were in the Serie D I want to say it was 6 or 7 seasons ago, and
Wow.
they got promoted to the C and then to the B in 3 seasons, and then they've been carving out their time in Serie B for the last 5 years or so before then getting their promotion. The crazier part is Thierry Henry is one of the co-owners of the club, and he brought in Czech Fabregas as another investor into the club. Fabregas then finished his career for Como. He then joined the Como coaching staff. They then fired their manager. They made him manager, but he didn't have the coaching license that he needed, so they then had to make him the assistant manager to a new manager who came in.
Cesc Fabregas is the manager for Como?
Well, again, he's the assistant manager because he doesn't have the coaching license to be a Serie B manager, so they brought in a Welsh guy to be the main manager. Cesc Fabregas is the assistant manager for Como. And Thierry Henry is a co-owner.
Well, I did not know any of that.
I had no idea about any of that until this weekend.
Gioacchini he's surrounded by royalty.
He's surrounded by complete royalty.
Wow, that's very cool.
And it's also, I do want to say also, there's another really cool part of the story, which is one of their, I want to say he's a winger, on Como 1907, was on their roster their last year in Serie D, and is still on their roster right now as they make their way up to Serie A. So not only have they made this run in like 7-8 seasons, but there's been one guy who's actually been on the team the entire time. And considering you're making like $30,000 if you're lucky in Serie D, and then you're making $1 million as a Serie A player, how about the jump for that guy?
Yeah, dude, that's the welcome to Wrexham for Italy.
Yeah, 100%.
Do those guys? Yeah, do those guys have a vodka company and have TikTok as a sponsor? And
they have
incessantly.
They have Thierry Henry.
I was gonna say, and incessantly promote Deadpool, whatever number that's on now. Well, good for them, man. That's super cool. I'm happy for Niko. What a great guy that was.
Be very happy. This is not 100% confirmed. This is the reports from the original transfer story, but a lot of this stuff is mired and hidden. So technically, City will never actually confirm or deny 100% on this one. But the original deal for Niko Gioacchini was $2 million plus. With a chance of going up to $4 million in incentives. The report has always been that those $2 million in incentives are if Como 1907 gets promoted to Serie A. So by getting promoted to Serie A, the report is that City also got $2 million more for Niko Gioacchini, doubling his transfer fee from $2 to $4 million. So that's really why.
Brilliant business.
That's really why City fans want to lock into this Como 1907 news. We love it for Niko if he's on the team next year, but the real case is them dollar bills.
Yo, that is brilliant business. If I sell one of these guitars behind me and you write a record that goes gold, you owe me twice the price. That's so sick. What a great business move.
Very smart move by City on their part. Seeing Como, who they were higher up, I think, in the standings because the Italian seasons starts in the fall and ends in the spring, so that's why we're talking about this now. And they didn't get Niko until halfway through their season, so I think they were a little bit higher up in the standings. They had a little bit of a lull, and they made a run late to get the one of the promotion spots. Niko didn't play a ton for them in the half season, but then again, as we know in soccer, as we know in a lot of sports, arriving mid-season and then having to integrate yourself into the club is obviously a difficult thing. So hopefully Niko can hit the ground running with a full summer working out with the team, and hopefully he can make an impact in Serie A.
That's so great. He's a good dude. I'm cheering for him. I think all St. Louis is cheering for him. We loved his time here, although albeit brief.
One other thing here, Moon, before we get into a little prediction here and close up the podcast, I forgot to mention this when we were talking about the LAFC matchup. Edward Leuven is questionable. Josh Yarrow is questionable. That means that Jabulo Blom is available. He is off the injury sheet completely. And the Edward Leuven news, if you didn't hear on Monday when Bradley Carnell had his press conference, he said that he is pretty confident that you're going to see Edward Leuven play a role in either the Wednesday or the Saturday game. I would guess just based off timing and just how the time works, I would guess there's a better chance that he makes an impact on the Saturday game than the Wednesday game. But just put it out there, he is now listed as questionable going into tonight's game.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't think Coach Carnell is a guy that goes in planning the second half before the game has started. So we'll see. We'll see if he dresses. I'm sure there's a few circumstances. I'm sure there's a few circumstances that could happen tonight where we might see.
Yeah,
I would love that.
You're down, if you're down a goal, or maybe if it's a tie game with and you say, hey, Edu, we're going to put you in the 80th minute, just give you a quick 10 minutes, see if you can get 3 or 4 passes, into the box to make something happen. I'd be shocked if his role tonight is longer than anything more than 15 minutes.
15. Okay.
Yeah. Ben, and with that said, your prediction for tonight's game, I think it's going to be a tough one for City. I don't think they lose this one. I do think we're going to see a 2-2 draw, though.
Yeah, I was going to say 1-1 draw, but I'm thinking positive. It's been an interesting week for me, so I'm going to put all the positivity I can out there. I think we're actually going to come away 2-1. I think Bouanga's going to have a piece. I think he's going to have something to say. I hope he doesn't. But I think we're going to have a couple heroes in this evening's match. I think they're on a high energy. I think they're doing well. And the ball might bounce our way because of that energy in City Park. I say 2-1 win.
Oh, there we go. Moon staying positive. I like that. I like the thought there, Moon. I like the positivity.
Yeah, that hasn't gone well for me this year yet. But it's okay. Tonight we turn things around here, St. Louis City SC at City Park against LAFC. Rocchio, thanks for hanging, brother. We'll catch up, I'm sure, either just before this weekend or just after this weekend to talk more Soccer 101. Thank you guys for always joining us. Make sure you subscribe and share with your grandma. She likes soccer too. Rocchio, what do you say that we leave on a nice solid note of a goal?